The topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
This is Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. Do you want to live a more fulfilling life? Do you want to live your legacy and achieve your personal, professional, and financial goals? Well, coming up on Divya Parekh's Beyond Confidence, you will hear real stories of leaders, entrepreneurs, and achievers who have stepped into discomfort, shattered their status quo, and are living the life they want. You will learn how relationships are the key to achieving your aspirations and financial goals. Moving your career or business forward does not have to happen at the expense of your personal or family life, or vice versa. Learn more at www.divyaparekh.com, and you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. This is Beyond Confidence, and now here's your host, Divya Parekh.
Hello, listeners. So wonderful to be here with y'all. Good morning, good morning, good morning. And I want to share with you, it's just been an amazing ride for past few weeks, because what I did was I was living out of a suitcase. And you may be thinking, okay, what's living out of a suitcase? So basically I had gone to visit family and then they were going out. So I was supposed to be there only for 4 or 5 days. And then what ended up happening was they ended up traveling. And here I was just with 5 days of clothes on me. And I stayed there for another couple of weeks. And I realized that you don't need as many things. And as part of that, what it brought me was the inner joy that, okay, the key to know is that you can adjust and adapt to the situations. And the best part of life is helping others. So folks, I want to thank each and every one of you who have got our copies, because what we do is we give away partial profits from our books to entrepreneurs all across the globe, kiva.org. And as of now, we have helped around like 80 entrepreneurs. For those who have not got your copies, you can get a copy. It's just showing right there in the back, expert to influencer and the entrepreneur's garden. Get your copy. And as always, I'm going to ask you and invite you to go ahead and get 1 hour of your time. Find 1 hour of your time in 1 month and share it with somebody freely. All right, let's bring on our guests, Jocelyn King and Cici Castelli.
Good morning.
Good morning, and good afternoon and evening to everybody listening in other time zones. So great to be here. Thank you, Divya.
Yes, it's wonderful to have you both. So I'm just going to invite you to share a bit about what you do. So Cici, do you want to share?
Sure. Good morning and greetings, everyone. I am actually the author of the book Mindset.com, which is being released today. And I'm also a technology executive. I am the director of digital deployment at one of the top travel companies in the travel industry.
Lovely. Thank you for sharing, Cici. Jocelyn.
Hi, so I am a Silicon Valley executive and co-founder of a top 10 startup. And I've been in Silicon Valley for a little over 20 years. And I've spent a decade in the large corporates, including Intel and others, and another decade in startups and working with startups and helping them get successful. So I love being in tech. I'm a girl who codes, and it's great to be here.
Wonderful to have you both. So Jocelyn, as we kind of get started on both of your journeys, I'm so excited because we may be talking about a little bit about, breaking those ceilings, and a lot of women are breaking those ceilings, but what else we can do where we can not only break the ceilings, but walk hand in hand with men together and as a team together, we can achieve things for the greater good of humanity. So before we get into all the juicy stuff, tell us if you have any juicy moments where you got into trouble or remember something from your childhood.
That's a great either or. But you know what? Let me share mine, because I think, Divya, when you and I first talked about my coming on, what was fun for me. So first of all, if anybody who follows my social media, the title I have under my name is Mover Shaker Glass Ceiling Breaker. That's how I identify. And been there, done that, and I coach and help other women figure out how to break through glass ceilings, because I was stuck at director level for 10 years, couldn't get there, and then I went on to be a chief officer and everything. But I think I'll just say, I think 75% of the work is internal. There are certainly external obstacles and things, but those are much easier than the internal ones, and we got to break through those. So, and it takes, a supportive environment to do that. But I think my childhood memory that was coming back to me when I was thinking about this, that took me a long time to recognize and lean into again, was when I was 10 years old. I grew up in Hollywood. My parents were in show business. I mean, my father was actually a marriage and family counselor as a profession, but they were both loved acting, loved singing, loved performing. And they studied with Lee Strasberg in Hollywood. So we moved, to Hollywood. And I grew up on stage. They would cart me around with them, instead of getting a babysitter or having me go to a friend's house. So I'd be sitting watching these rehearsals of stage plays and of commercials and things like that. And one of the stage plays, I was kind of bored, because I was the only kid there, and it was an adult play. But I was looking around, and I just kept listening, and it turned out I memorized the entire script. I did all these things. And the director noticed, like one of the actors forgot their lines, and I very sheepishly in the third row or whatever said the line, because they couldn't find the script. And he started incorporating me in, and he actually ended up creating a part for me, even though there was no part for a child in the play. And I ended up performing in I think a 5,000 seat auditorium all summer with my parents. And that was when I was 10. And I had forgotten about that memory in a way, or put it aside or whatever, until the last year. And I was remembering that, thinking, showing up with a sense of curiosity, and you're going to just show up. Don't, serendipity is out there. And if you just show up and gravitate to the things that interest you and that you like, and the people that you enjoy talking to, like I really liked the director. And then he took a shine to me, and then these great things happened. And I think all the great things that have happened in my life are kind of symbolized by that event that happened when I was 10.
Mm-hmm. What a profound moment where you were just listening. And so many times people think, children are in the room, and they don't realize they are listening. They're watching you. Mm-hmm. So lovely story, Jocelyn. How about Cici? How about you?
Well, Jocelyn, that's really interesting. And what I realized that we actually have in common is that I'm also a coach. I coach professional entrepreneurs. And it's also because of the experience I've had also growing up as a woman in tech. But when I was a child, I would say the most profound, impacting action that I took, I was a teenager. I was 17 years old, and it was, I wanted to learn English. It was like my passion. I failed English in high school in Venezuela. I'm originally from Caracas, Venezuela. And I managed to be able to come as an exchange student to Boston, Massachusetts. And back then, I decided to stay as an immigrant. I was by myself. I stayed with an American family, a host family. And the day that I was supposed to go back, I called my parents and I said, do not pick me up at the airport. I will not be there. And that back then, and I said back then when people didn't even know where Venezuela was. Nowadays, everybody knows how many Venezuelans have come to the United States, but it was when Venezuela was great and it was a rich country. And here I was coming from a good family and deciding to stay all by myself without my relatives. And my parents is like, if you stay, we're going to cut you off. You're going to come back. And here I am 30 some years later. I believe that what I did back then was what marked my life and what I am today.
Oh, wow. Two wonderful powerhouses today. So, what a beautiful story, Cici. So, Cici, let's continue from your story that you decided to stay in the US, and it is a land of promise. And I gotta say that being an immigrant myself, it's a beautiful country where people from all different parts of the world come and we become one family. And yes, here's what I always say, that we may have our differences. At the end of the day, we are looking for the same values, and that's what counts. So, Cece, tell us your journey as you moved through, just from barely a 17 years old to being a dishwasher at Harvard.
Yeah, and that's how I start my funny story. I tell everybody I went to Harvard, not as a student, but as a dishwasher. That was really how I got started. Of course, when you can get jobs back then, I spoke no English, so I couldn't really have a professional job. So I figured, hey, gotta do what I gotta do. I'm willing to start from the bottom up. And I put myself through school. I learned English. And because I was supposed to become a dentist, just like my dad in Venezuela, I had to figure out how to pay for school. And it's like, I have to go to college and put myself through college. So I worked days and nights. I worked different jobs and I put myself through college. And because I had failed English, which is interesting, I actually became a simultaneous interpreter. So I became a translator and interpreter, those that sit in the back of a conference. So I could do Spanish, English, and I also got my degree with American Sign Language. So I learned and I was certified back then, wanting to do something that an American didn't do in pursuit of my papers back then. I said, I gotta do something different. And back then, there were only 6 certified individuals that had the combination of these languages, Spanish, English, and American Sign Language. So that's what I became. I became an interpreter. And this was early 90s, which was great. And they set up, it was when the ADA was passed as a law, and they were able to set up interpreter services in different hospitals. So I became a director of interpreter services at a hospital, managed a team of 60 different languages, and did it in a couple hospitals. So I was doing these for 11 years and really master my languages. I still speak English. And then I decided I hit the ceiling. I was reporting to the CMO. And because I knew I didn't have a medical degree, I was never going to become the CMO of a hospital. And I was still in my 20s. And it's like, no, I hear of this Silicon Valley area where people get stocks and they make money. I'm going to go and change my career.
Absolutely. So you found a barrier and you decided, yep, I'm going to tackle it, take it head on. What a journey. So we'll continue. We'll come back to that. So Jocelyn, we talked about you kind of getting on the stage. So tell us about your journey from there, like what happened in high school. I know your journey has taken a lot of twists and turns. So if you're open to sharing it, would love to
Sure,
hear.
absolutely. Yeah, and you and I spoke a little bit about this. So, well, I was bright in high school. I was in advanced placement, things like that. But for some family reasons, I dropped out of high school when I was 16 to take care of some family members. And and then my parents had to move into a retirement community when I was 17, and I wasn't old enough to live there. You had to be 50 years old. So I had 90 days to move out. I didn't know how to get a job. I didn't even know how to apply to college. I didn't know how to do stuff. And, I just didn't get those life skills. And so at that time, we were living in the French Quarter for a year. And I thought, well, I love Oriental rugs and art. I'm that strange person that, as a kid, loved It's a Small World at Disneyland. I'm the person who loved that ride and would go on it over and over because I wanted to travel the whole world and meet people from every country in the world. So I went into this Oriental rug shop where there were all these, I felt like I'd gone into another country and I wanted to work there. And the woman was going to hire me, and she kept saying she'd hire me, and she did, and then she didn't, and I suddenly had to make rent. So I went down the street to her competitor with, and he said, okay, I don't have a job, but yeah, I'm going to hire you. And, and I just kind of created. So I think now that I call myself an entrepreneur, I realize, oh, that was, the early part of that. But I wasn't on a trajectory to go to college, to be a successful businesswoman or anything. And I just started, I just started working, and I started taking a class at community college and doing that. I spent 18 years, got my bachelor's degree, and then I went on and got my MBA. So, it's like water, carved out Yosemite Valley, persistence over a long time has a huge effect. And so, I'm a 20-year overnight success on that part. But I ended up just, I wanted to get into business. My parents hadn't done traditional business roles, and I didn't know how to do it, but I just kept, I think, my sense of curiosity, and I just kept going and asking. And in fact, one of the things I coach a lot of women on, we've all heard the, fake it till you make it. I absolutely hate that saying, because every time I was faking it, I wasn't asking questions. I was trying to pretend I had it all together and didn't need any help. So I tell everybody, it's learn it till you earn it. Keep asking questions, keep finding your way there. But so my journey led me through several phases of my career. I ended up working at a research center next to UC Berkeley, and then that led to another job, and that led to another job. And then I fell in love with marketing. Cici, you said CMO is Chief Medical Officer, so I'm a CMO Chief Marketing Officer. And, and I think there's two other definitions of CMO. But I just fell in love with marketing because I love communications and people, and it goes back to my performing arts thing, where you're trying to create an experience for the audience. And so I see customers as an audience where you're trying to relate to them and give them an experience. So I found the career that I love by dabbling in a number of things, and ended up, and I love tech because I'm a nerd and a geek, and ended up coming to Silicon Valley, which I also love because I meet people from all over the world. I think there's only 12 countries now where I haven't been or met people from, and I'm looking to check. I'm looking to put the pins in that map as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I like two of the phrases that you used. One was 20-year overnight success.
Yeah.
And there's so many things, especially in today's day and age, people are looking for instant gratification, and people are like, yes, do this over the weekend, or do this over 5 minutes every single day. And you gotta put in the time, especially if you're looking to grow yourself, especially you're looking to gain that clarity. I'm not saying that you gotta go on a 10-year mission. At the same time, it's important to give it time. Learn it till you earn it. Very powerful phrase. And it looks like we didn't know that, but both of you had similar trajectories. And I want to say that I want to take a minute and acknowledge both of you for what you've gone through and emerged out strong. So Jocelyn, you have talked about a ceiling breaker. So share with us in some details as to when did you face that? Couple of stories from your personal life that you plateaued out, and how did you break through it? And by the way, I think so I remember for the CMO, there's also something like Chief Mindset Officer.
Yes, exactly. Well, I think one of the things that happened when I came into tech, and I was working in traditional hardware engineering companies, which are predominantly male environments, and I was like I'd be in a leadership team, so I was a director, and I'd be in a leadership team of 40 people, like all the leaders coming together for something, and if the other woman didn't show up, I was the only woman in the room, so kind of been there, done that. What was happening to me, and this is where I talk about the mindset part, is I saw the differences, and I was trying to fit in. I'm like, okay, there's 39 men in here. They're all wearing white or pale blue button-down collar shirts, not with ties. They're, like they've got the uniform. I'm not wearing that. I've got long hair. They've got short hair. I'm wearing I'm a woman. I was really overly focused on trying to fit in. Now, I do think when you're coming up the ranks, being sensitive to your environment is there. Like I was coaching a woman who works for a Japanese company, and I said, you've got to learn some basics of Japanese etiquette and and Japanese culture, and be respectful of that. But you don't have to. They hired you because they want you to help innovate their American branch. So you've got to balance that. I also took tightrope walking. I was a tightrope walker when I was a kid. And the thing about balance is it's not a noun, it's a verb. You're always slightly tweaking. So I was overly trying to fit in to the environment. And then that really held me back from a mindset perspective because I kept seeing myself as an outsider. And when you grow up as when I'm in a creative, that hangs out with musicians and actors, and then I'm a businesswoman who hangs out with business people, and I'm and I studied physics, and I'm hanging out with scientists and engineers. I have the opportunity to, every time I'm with each of those groups, see what I have in common with them and enjoy it, or to see, oh, I don't fit in, I'm an outsider. And for a variety of reasons, including low self-esteem and low confidence, it's wrong to become confidence show, I was focused on how I was different and not fitting in. And then I didn't have the confidence to really assert myself as much as I could have. So I kept dipping my toe in the water when I actually had the opportunity to dive in head first. And I think that getting to that mindset shift, that's when the glass ceiling opened for me, because I took my own heavy glass brick off of my own head.
Mm-hmm. You said it, because so many times what happens is that we are scared. What are people going to think about it? And this, I got to share a story about one of my recent clients. She wore this big, chunky, heavy armor, not literally, of course, that she had to be a knight. She had to be somebody who had to come out looking strong every single time, taking on things, not being able to say no. And she was experiencing burnout. So when we sat down and I asked her, what is it costing you? She's like, it's too heavy an armor to continue wearing. And then as she started laying boundaries, not only she was able to break through that armor, but also create the opening that she had been looking for several years. So definitely very powerful. So Cici, now your journey takes you to Bay Area. How did you move into your next part?
Well, I moved to the North Bay Area, north of San Francisco, looking for a startup because I wanted to make more money and get those stocks that all these guys were getting, and I was not, right? So I said, you know what? I'm going to be willing to start all over again. So if I did it in Boston, I'm going to be able to do it in California. And at the time I was going through divorce, I had a child that was less than 1 year old and a 3-year-old. And I had to balance looking for a job and demonstrating that I was able to do the work in technology, even though my resume said it's all communication and hospitals. And that was the biggest challenge, that nobody will even give me an interview. But back then they had these open houses, kind of like similar to the Great Resignation, where you have more job opportunities than people. And I took advantage of that. I showed up and I said, I'm not leaving until I'm granted an interview. And I literally stood up at a place, at a company. I was the first one showing up at their open house at 8 a.m. And it was 6 p.m. and they were closing. And the same guy that saw me having a cup of coffee in the morning, he's like, "You're still here." And of course, by then I was very frustrated. And I said, "Yes, and I'm not leaving until I get an interview. They just don't know I'm going to be the best employee that this company ever had. They just don't know it yet." All of a sudden, someone came in and took me into the interview. And I got hired right at the interview, not knowing that that guy was the CEO of the company that had seen me in the morning and in the evening when they were about to close. So, and he called me the lady in red, just like you, Jocelyn. You were trying to fit in. I didn't do my homework. Everybody was wearing jeans. And here I showed up from Boston with a red suit back then, right? And I got the job. It was the lowest that you could get in the, I wanted to be a project manager back then, and it was like an admin position. And I said, I don't care. I will prove them that I can do this. And I did. And I moved through the rank. I climbed the corporate ladder. I survived 7 reductions in force back then. The company goes sold out. And when the company goes sold out, I actually moved to Miami through that company. And when they go sold out, I figure I go find another job because management is the first people that is let go. And I had an amazing ride. I was able to work with technology, the DSL lines that we get in our homes today. I ended up being the senior project manager that managed that for the phone companies, all because I was able to have consistency and confidence that I was going to get to climb the corporate ladder, and I did. And I from there I went on to different other opportunities in technology, while I managed to get a different degree from Boston University as a project management in technology. And one company after another, that's what let me change industry and worked in IT in different companies. And just like Jocelyn, it was hard to move through the ranks because I was in many of the jobs, I was the only woman sitting at the table. But I managed to sit at the table, but I would not get promoted. And I will try, I will work hard. I tried to prove myself. And I worked in my mind twice as hard as the guys next to me. And it was until I decided to get a coach. And I got a coach and I decided to enjoy what I was doing more than focused on getting promoted. And when I focused on my passion and on being and on enjoying everything around me, I got promoted without looking for it. But it took a change. I unlocked my mindset to be able to make it happen.
Yeah, we come back to the mindset, and it's amazing how most people think, so many of my clients will come to me and say, oh, what are the strategies? What are the tactics? And people are hesitant to talk about the mindset. And yet we always come back to the mindset, especially as we are listening to your story, Jocelyn, as well as Cici stories, both of you. And Cici, you said that I stayed there. I stayed there from 8 till it closed. That persistence, that confidence. So, Cici, what would you say to someone? Because so many times what happens is that people want to change things, and yet they choose exactly the thing they don't want to change. What would you say to them?
I think is the willingness to take risk. The taking risk. I think I changed my mindset to believe that I have nothing to lose. I was already an immigrant. I already slept on a carpet. I lived with a refrigerator in Boston. What is the worst that can happen? I'm just going to stay here and prove to them that I'm the best that they can get. Um, and I think is looking deep inside at what is it that I want? What is the clarity? What is it that I'm looking for? And how do I want to achieve that without impacting the balance and the happiness that I want to have in life?
Mm-hmm. Yes, clarity brings an end to confusion. And sometimes confusion is good because if you don't have confusion, you would not see clarity. So, what I'm listening and what I'm hearing from you is that sometimes going back to who you are, being in the joy, being in the moment, and cherishing what your passions are, and that eases. And when that eases the stress, you perform and produce things that people will notice. Very powerful. So, Jocelyn, as you continued your journey, do you have any stories of yourself or your clients that just kind of stand out where they
Yeah.
went through a transformation?
Yes, I do. So one thing that I'll add, I love what you said, Cici. I so agree with that. What I've really had to learn, I think, having a great a mindset and starting your day with all that and affirmations is great, but it's really hard to hold on to that going forward if you don't have all your support mechanisms in place to help you. And I think a few years ago, when I was going through a really kind of dark and difficult time in my life, personally and professionally, it's one of those years that everything happened at once. I realized that I was having trouble acting on things that I wanted to do. Like I had the right
Mm,
intentions every morning, but I was freezing, and I ended up the thing I had to learn was that we need a certain amount of safe. We need to feel safety and security in order to feel safe to go do these great things and these aspirations. It's very much like a Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Got to take care of your foundations. And if you don't feel safe, you're not going to speak up. People either go into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn mode. I was a freezer. So I had all these great
mm,
tools. I'm articulate, I can speak. But if I'm frozen in fear, I can't use my tools, right? And so there's a lot of different methodologies for how people can overcome and learn from their fight, flight, freeze. I personally went to the Neurosculpting Institute in Denver. And in fact, I kept studying it and I became a certified neurosculptor. Find a tool so that you can be your best self in the face of fear. Because when you're really following your dreams and your passion and living your purpose, you're going to have more fear come up. So it's not about trying to get away from it. It's about how do you live comfortably with it and how do you create a secure environment for you. This was particularly a challenge for me because one of my first three jobs when I was 18, I was sexually
mm,
assaulted by my
mm,
manager. So I had this visceral reaction that work's not a
mm.
safe place. People in power are supposed to be looking out for you, aren't. So we all have those stories. Unfortunately, I've
I'm
met
so
far too
sorry to
many
hear that.
people that have those. Thank you. And I had to heal from it and I had to overcome. Now it's ultimately made me a stronger person and it's made me a somebody who can really help others in that same situation. So my one bad experience has actually been able to be an echo chamber for helping a lot of other women and men in similar situations overcome trauma. I have yet to meet a human being who hasn't had trauma, and I've met a lot of people who have had far worse than mine. But we have to learn how to support ourselves. And if you're CEO of your own life, you need to recruit your support infrastructure. I have a org chart on a very large 11 by 17 piece of paper that has all the roles that I need to support me. Everything from my workout coach to my nutritional support to my to my virtual assistant um, to the person who's whatever, every part of my life. And I think that's how I can feel safe and that's how I feel supported every day because anything, I'm only as able to come into the world with my best self and be on my mission and purpose when I don't have all this busy noise of anxiety and fear and everything. I mean, and if you picture the fear in your head and how loud it is, if you can dial that down from a 10 to even a 5, let alone a 1, you get to hear the wonderful music of your spirit and your life purpose and be able to step out in that. So I really encourage people to figure out where they need the most support right now so that they can feel safe and secure and empowered, because it's great to say mindset, but you can't just go out and do it without laying that foundation. And I think everybody, I firmly believe that the world is a goes from a hellacious place to a heavenly place when we're all following our purpose and passion, that we have that innate drive for a reason. And when we help each other do that, we help ourselves and we help them and we help our communities.
Absolutely. So
Very
you talked
interesting.
about, go ahead, Cici.
No, I was going to say something related to what Jocelyn said. I believe in building teams, not only professionally, but personally. I just like you, I don't have an org chart design, but I do have an Excel sheet with the roles and responsibility from everybody around me, even in my personal life, who assists me at some kind. So I feel that I have the support that I need so I can focus in achieving different things in different goals. And that makes me and my fears stay calm, because I know that I have a support system, a support mechanism personally. Besides, of course, I have a wonderful professional team as well. So I think that's key.
That's awesome. I call it my personal board of directors.
That's a
And
great
yeah,
thing.
I think everybody should know their personal board of directors. And if you don't have one, I invite you to create it today.
Amazing. I'm going to change it from an Excel sheet to an org chart. I'm sure they're going to love that. I even include my kids
Absolutely.
in it.
There you go.
Hey,
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
works. That's the key. Whatever works for you, and if it's the org chart that works for you, great. If it's a team meeting that works for you. So just to kind of quickly add to that, that's what we do. I've got a whole team, and sometimes it's interesting that your professional team can become your personal team as well, where the professional roles have seeped over and become personal friends. So it's about seeing, what's your working style? How does it work for you? And definitely creating the support system that both Cici and Jocelyn have mentioned. So before we get into your personal stuff, Jocelyn, do you have a tool that our audience can walk away with today to face their fears and start laying the foundation of changing their mindset if needed be?
Yeah. I think, well, the best tool I have, and I learned this again from neurosculpting and everything else I've learned about brain science and mindset, and I mean all the greats, no matter who you talk to. Um, when you're feeling overwhelmed, just come back and take a deep breath out. Now, the reason you want to take a deep breath out is because telling somebody to take a deep breath when they're holding their breath or hyperventilating, there's no room for it. When you take a deep breath out and kind of sigh, two things happen. You get to be present in your body. Our minds live in the past in regret and in the future in worry a lot. But your body only lives in the present. So when you take a breath, you are connecting with your body. And right now in the present moment, I mean, unless you're actually being chased by a grizzly bear, you're actually okay. So taking a deep breath and then finding something that you're grateful for. Like I'm in my home office, and I've got climate control in here, and I've got clean air, and I've got access to fresh, clean water. I'm ahead of 95% of the people on the planet, and I get to feel grateful for that. And just so relaxing and finding something I'm appreciative for will immediately get me out of fight or flight and it'll put me into a space to um, think from a place of abundance and gratitude of what I want
Mhm.
to do next instead of reacting out of fear. I think
Absolutely.
if that's the one tool I go to many times a day.
No, that's very simple, handy, and easy to use. Cici, do you have a handy tool that's easily actionable and our audience can use it straight away?
I have the belief that I got rid of I ditched the live one day at a time. I actually plan out the entire week, my entire month, my entire quarter. I find that when I have everything planned out for the day and the week, there is very little uncertainty on what am I going to do next. And I think a lot of the fears and uncertainty come from, oh, I'm not sure what I'm doing. What am I doing? And when I start questioning myself, I start questioning and doubting, oh, should I do this? Oh, should I do that? And I have found that when I planned for this week ahead of time and I just go by my plan, I go on achieving what I want without the fear of, oh, what would they say? Should I work out or should I work now?
Mhm.
Different things. And that is what keeps me at peace. And of course, I have my gratitude. Um, and of course my deep breathing and meditation, I also do those things, but I plan them as part of my day.
Absolutely. Very powerful. And again, listeners, it goes back. You're sharing the tools. You got to see what works for you and try it and then make it your own. So, Cici, share with us a bit about your book, where people can reach you.
Yes, my book is called Mindset Unlocked, and it is actually being released today. Today is release day, so I am super emotional and excited about it. And it's my
Congratulations.
Thank you. And it's my first book and it's self-published. So I'm going through the motion of learning what it takes to do that myself. Um, the listeners can go to mindsetunlock.com and take advantage of some bonuses that I have in there this week, since it is the book is being released now. And if not, they can be bought anywhere where you guys like to buy books, Amazon, of course, Barnes and Noble. So it can be found anywhere there.
Well, congratulations. Very happy for you. And
Thank you.
I know what it is like releasing the books because having written several books myself, it's still precious, just like birthing a child every time. So, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cici and Jocelyn. Where can people reach to you and anything else you'd like to share?
So currently, you can come to jocelynking.com, JocelynKing.com. And currently, it's set up more for the coaching. I will say I'm the author of a forthcoming book that's still in process. And what I did, I've been writing a book for a couple of years on that mindset and breaking through the glass ceiling and how to navigate. I mean, I've learned a lot about how to navigate, the corporate environments. And so I was focused on that, but and I mentioned, the physical assault. I want to say something
Mhm.
too. When that happened to me, and then a couple of years later, I was mugged in a parking lot. I went to I learned martial arts, and I learned self defense. So when I've had something bad happen to me, I've been like, okay, how do I protect myself so this doesn't happen again? And so I learned martial arts. When I had professional challenges, I was like, how do I understand if my job's safe, and how do I understand how to get ahead and get promoted and all of that? And then lastly, a couple of years ago, I had my identity stolen, my network hacked, and then I started learning about cybersecurity. I'm now a co-founder of a top 10 cybersecurity startup, and I just won at the end of last year. I just won top 10 women in cybersecurity. What I'm doing with that is that it was very hard to overcome all those things, and it wasn't easy to find resources for all of it. And it was even harder to find out how to prevent it in the first place. So that's what my book is about. And it's coming out in June, and it's called Sitting Pretty or Sitting Duck, 101 Must-Know Life Safety Tips for Women and the Men Who Want to Protect Them. And it's in story form. There's a number of stories, and then there's tips at the end of each of them. So you can kind of think, what would I do in that situation? And they're all true life stories. They're close calls of real women I know or have interviewed, and a couple are my own. And it gets to start the conversation and the training. In working in cybersecurity, I learned the motto that the bad guys only have to be right once, and you have to be right 24/7, 365 to protect yourself. And I was very upset that, like, I went, where was that checklist of the 10 things? I was an intelligent, educated woman. I had the protected network. I had all this stuff, and yet I was still a victim of this. And I thought, you're only as strong as your weakest link. And I couldn't find anything except ads on Google to help me with it. So I said, well, I'm gonna create it. And then I'm offering free tips. So if you sign up for my newsletter, it's going to be transitioning into, weekly life safety tips to help people become aware of the weakest links in their armor that they may not even be aware exist. So that's what I'm wanting to do, because I'm now on a mission to help 100 million women take a deep breath and live a safer, better life.
Well, congratulations on your upcoming book.
Thank you.
And keep doing up the great work, whatever both of you are doing. Not only shine light for yourself, keep shining and shine that light for other women as well. Thank you for joining us, Cici and Jocelyn. It was wonderful having you. And thank you, listeners, because without you,
thank you,
the
Divya.
show would not be possible. So keep joining us, and we are very thankful to have you. And also thank you, Jason. Until next time, be well and take care.
Thank you for being part of Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. We hope you have learned more about how to start living the life you want. Each week on Beyond Confidence, you hear stories of real people who have experienced growth by overcoming their fears and building meaningful relationships. During Beyond Confidence, Divya Parekh shares what happened to her when she stepped out of her comfort zone to work directly with people across the globe. She not only coaches people how to form heart connections, but also transform relationships to mutually beneficial partnerships as they strive to live the life they want. If you are ready to live the life you want and leverage your strengths, learn more at www.divyaparekh.com. And you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. We look forward to you joining us next week.